So welcome back to my channel. This is Dom, and my Napoleonic addiction continues. Well, my addiction with trying not to do French troops continues. So what am I working on now? I shall tell you in a minute. So, to much hilarity for most people I know, and I have to say I do exaggerate it to some degree. I make the point that I don't play French. Don't ever play French. But I wanted to build out some French type troops to fight in black powder and fight in sharp practice for the times when I can't play British or Allied. And also for when I've got people coming over who don't necessarily have the figures. So I've been working through, as you know, my Cleve-Berg project. That has been great fun. I've really enjoyed doing it. But as with all of these things, well, for me anyway, I can't stop at basically doing a brigade. And so I've started to work my way through. Well, I've done lots of research into the Cleve-Berg troops and where they fought and some of the campaigns they're involved in. And as you know, I picked on 1812 as the period I'm looking for. And the interesting thing about Victor's brigade, that they were part of, Victor's corps that they were part of in 1812 invasion of Russia, was the Cleve-Bergs had company of all sorts of other foreign nationals within that corps. There was Polish, there was Swiss, lots of Confederacy of the Rhine troops, of which I will be doing some more for sure. But also, intriguingly, was a unit from the Portuguese Legion, which I wasn't so familiar about. Whoops. So, quick history lesson on the Portuguese Legion. Basically, when Napoleon invaded or took over Spain, he also effectively forced out the. Well, he didn't effectively. He did force out the Portuguese royal family, who fled to Brazil. Apparently, it's the only known instance of a colony ruling an empire, ruling sort of its parent country. So apparently, it's the only example of a colony ruling its parent nation. So it's sort of reverse colonization for a while, but for the period where Portugal was occupied by the French, they raised or tried to raise troops in Portugal. And they took, inverted commas, volunteers from the Portuguese army and marched them across Spain and into France to form a sort of foreign regiment. They did this quite a lot, the French. They were big into foreign regiments to supplement the French manpower in their army. Now, a large percentage, some might say even the majority of the troops that they force marched across Spain deserted. But a fair sizable number stayed. And I believe there were 3 regiments of foot and some cavalry that basically formed the Portuguese Legion in French command. What's intriguing about them is that they wore what we sort of know as British-style shakos, those sort of Belgian ones, you know, the classic British shakos, with the plume down one side and the sort of high front. And so apparently that was the Portuguese shako of the time. It wasn't called the Belgique shako. It was called something completely different. But basically that's what it was. And the British copied it because in the Peninsular War, the British wore the stovepipe shako, and then they transferred to the Belgian one. Anyway, long story short, effectively both the Portuguese who were in the French army and the Portuguese who were in the Allied army used the same shakos, and the Portuguese Legion was pretty active in French command. In fact, the one I'm going to represent in my force, the 3rd Regiment, was part of the invasion force in 1812. In the same corps that the Cleve-Bergs were in. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do them. Now, I looked up lots of places about what their uniforms were, and they wore a kind of a Polish style uniform with sort of front bib, very unlike the French one, and very unlike pretty much all the others apart from Portuguese. And it's a very brown. They have a sort of a leathery brown colour uniform. Quite horrible looking actually, with of course the Belgian type shako on top. And I've looked long and hard about where to get them. There is a company that produce, I think Elite Miniatures do metal ones, but this is a novelty unit. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. And metal, much as I love painting metal, is expensive. So I thought, you know what? I was talking to someone on a Facebook page who about advice on this unit, and he said, "Oh, I used this colour and they did this, and I transplanted a head from British troops to make them happen." I thought, yeah, that's a really good idea. And I said, what did you use as the figure? And he said, "Oh, I cheated and I used a French guy in a greatcoat and I only produced one man." And I thought, you know what? Producing them in greatcoats when they're going to be part of an 1812 army where they mainly fought in the retreat, which is when it was bloody cold, they would have been wearing greatcoats. So I'm going to cheat too. So I bought on eBay a box of Warlord miniatures, late French line infantry, 1812 to 1815, because every single man in this box is wearing a greatcoat. So that was my easy cheat. And then all I did was go into my bit box, and rather than putting the correct heads on these Frenchies, I got the spare British heads that I had. Because when you do the British infantry, they come with the stovepipe and the Belgian shakos. So one of my earlier battalions must have used the stovepipe. So I've used the remaining heads on here, and that's what I've done. I basically just I wouldn't even say it's a conversion or kit bashing. I've just taken the heads from the Belgies, shakos, and stuck them down on the bodies of the French guys in greatcoats. I've left the command group as the officer because he did seem to have the same sort of bib, or at least I could make it look like he did. So I've left him exactly the same. I haven't bothered transplanting his head, and the drummer and the standard bearer, I've kept the French shako on because they're metal figures and I really couldn't be asked to chop their heads off. And one or two shakos in amongst the one or two French shakos in amongst the Belgian type shakos, I think will be fine. So you can only see a couple of the figures. You can see their under tunics coming through, like this guy here. I've just put a bit of red in there. They had red collars, red cuffs. Otherwise, pretty much the same. So I've done the majority using. In fact, pretty much all these figures have been done in contrast paints. So I used snakebite leather for the greatcoat and the trousers of the majority of these figures. So pretty much every single one of these is using that snakebite brown because it sort of reflects the right sort of colour. Then I've used a red colour for I think this is the red I use because I quite like this one. This is Almaratha red from Vallejo, which I quite like because it comes out quite light coloured when you first paint it on, but when you put a wash over it, it darkens up to a nice red colour. So that's what I've done there. So I've done all the they need a bit of touching up in places, but pretty much that's all done. I've done the backpacks. I've used Gore-Grunter fur on the backpacks, and the black of the shako and the boots, and the ammo box is just the contrast black Templar. I think I did 6 of the 24 figures haven't got the same colour greatcoats, and I've just used I've used 3 different colours, so just to break up that uniformity really, because troops would have used different, would have picked up different sort of equipment during a campaign. So So that's what I'm working on now. 24 figures, because it's largely contrast paints, because they've pretty much got, well, they've all got these great coats on. It's not going to take long to do these. So we're back when I've done a bit more. So there we go. These are pretty much done now. I've see done the cross belts, the cords on the shakos themselves, obviously the backpacks and everything else. Been back over and touched it up a bit. They still need a little bit of touching up, but I'm reasonably comfortable with how they are as block colours. There's the, well, these are the Grenadiers. 4 men for them. Donated by the Red Plume. And then 4 light infantry Voltigeurs here, and the rest of them are the regular Fusiliers line troops. I did have a little bit of an accident with these. I was coming back downstairs where I do the podcast on a Monday night, plug. Do the video stream, or do the stream on YouTube with Ken and Steve and Martin, and usually I paint downstairs. And I do my video upstairs because that's where my computer is and where my webcam is and everything else. So I always take stuff up to paint while I'm doing the stream. And coming back down again, I dropped this entire unit down the stairs, and this guy's sword is a little bit weakened as a result. I'm going to have to try and do something to strengthen that, because that's not going to last. Another one of the bayonets was also rather badly bent. I've managed to strengthen that with some glue, but that was just plastic glue, and that won't work on that figure because he's metal. But they're reasonably okay. Next step for these is going to be base them, wash them, give a little bit of highlight and dry brushing. And put the flag on them. So I'll be back when that's done. And there we are. That's the battalion finished. Very, very straightforward. I mean, it's a real cheat using great coats all the way through, but it's effective, and I thought that was the easiest way to basically make the Portuguese Legion how it should be. So this is going to be my 3rd regiment of the Portuguese Legion. It's basically, as I said before, it's part of the division that the Cleve-Bergs were in, and it's not French, so I quite enjoyed doing it, and got used to. I'm not a kit basher. I'm not like my friend Steve on Point HQ. I don't, convert figures left, right and centre, but this was a simple thing, just to replace the heads with the British Belgian shakos to give the right effect. 24 figures, you can see. You've got the Voltigeurs here and the Grenadiers here, all based basically for black powder, and with the correct standard, which I got from GMB, I think it was, which actually I've just seen. I need to touch that up a bit. Never mind. Never fits quite perfectly, the flag, does it? Never. It's always a little bit off. Leaves that little white line, which is frustrating as hell. Anyway, there you go. I'm pleased with them. They're finished. They can go into the pile of completed regiments, ready for the next black powder game. And I'm quite happy with them. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying well. Hope you're staying safe. Hope your projects are going along very, very well indeed. And I know we all seem to be heading into another various degrees of shutdown. So I'm guessing that's going to be curtailing most people's gaming experience. Touch wood, so far it's not affecting where I live, but I know it is for large parts of the UK and also Europe, and I guess the world. But I hope you're managing to get some sort of gaming in. If not, keeping in touch with people and keeping your sanity, such that we all have as war gamers, and said before, reach out if you're having any problems. If you need just want to talk, just reach out. Anyway, this is enough from me. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe and like button if you haven't already done so, and I will see you again soon. This is Dom, signing out.